Kylie from TheCurlyCrafter, and I have one big question for you. Would you like a cookie? If so, I can show you how to make these delicious cookies that aren't edible in this video. So let's get started. First things first, I purchased some white chalk paint from Walmart's crafting aisle, and I used it to coat a silver platter from the Dollar Tree. It did take several coats to get nice clean streaks. I also wound up purchasing a pack of 2 plastic cups and floral arrangements from the Dollar Tree. Inside the 2 cups, I ended up painting one with white chalk paint and the other one with pink cameo paint from Apple Barrel. Then I opened up the pack of floral arrangements and cut it down to the size of a nice healthy brownie that you might be given at a nice fancy restaurant. Using a cheap mixing container, I added a container of lightweight spackle and a few drops of burnt umber paint in order to get a nice milk chocolatey color and consistency. After a lot more mixing and a lot more paint, I spreaded this cloth mixture amongst the floral arrangement and let it dry so I would be able to add more toppings as I desired. I set the brownie aside and gave the cup another coat. Now starting my second milkshake container, I coated the inside with cameo pink paint from Apple Barrel. With the same paint, I also coated a ceramic plate from Dollar Tree. Using this air dry modeling clay from Hobby Lobby around $7, I prepared a cup of water to add onto the clay. Once the clay was at the thickness I wanted, I used a heart-shaped cookie cutter around the size of a macaroon and cut out an even number of hearts. I popped these into the oven for 30 minutes each side to speed up the drying process so I would be able to paint them sooner. In another mixing container, I added more spackling, Mod Podge candy pink paint and white paint, and 2 cups of flour. I used a cheap ice cream scoop, but I recommend one with a handle to push out the fake ice cream because mine just clumped up. I started scooping and flattening my mixture onto my cup. I did not use the white cup because it didn't look right with the pink inside. I used the leftover mixture as icing and modified it with more Mod Podge to get frosting consistency. Then I piped it onto my milkshake using a tiny pot so my icing wouldn't collapse. Then I just mixed Mod Podge and burnt umber paint to make chocolate syrup. I purchased these fake heart sprinkles at Michael's for $3.99 and I used them to drizzle all over my milkshake. My brownie has now set, so I used the same frosting on top of my brownie, then set it onto the pink plate and added syrup, sprinkles, and the cherries I purchased off of Amazon for around $8. Since the plate is ceramic and the paint didn't stick that well, I added a coat of Mod Podge so the plate wouldn't get beat up. First time I made the macaroons, they didn't turn out too well, so this time I made them again but without adding water, and it worked much better. I took some of my conversation hearts and lined them up on each of the macaroons to match the colors I wanted to do. I then grabbed some foam brushes and started painting. It did take several coats to get all the clay covered. Once again, I made my frosting mixture, but this time I added white paint and I added Mod Podge, and then I used it to fill the inside of my macaroons. I made the same mixture and I'm putting it into a piping bag to pipe the words on my conversation hearts. It didn't work too well, so then I switched to a container of caulk that I found at my local Dollar Tree. It took me several tries and a lot of mistakes to make my wording perfect. Every time I messed up, I wiped it off and I had to add a new coat of paint because the caulking was so thick. Moving along to the next craft, I purchased 3 foam circles from Dollar Tree and I attached them with the caulk in order to make a stack of cake. Once more, I made the frosting, but this time I used Cameo Pink Paint from Apple Barrel, and after I mixed the mixture, I spread it evenly onto the cake in any design I wanted to. I set the cake aside to set just like I did with the brownie. Meanwhile, I made purple frosting that I'm going to add to the cake around the borders. The cake set for about a day, so I took it out of the container and started piping on the purple stars around the borders. Using the same clay from earlier, I cut out bigger hearts using them for sugar cookies and smaller hearts and little circles for sprinkles. The paint I used for the sugar cookies were very similar to the paint they already were, but I gathered all the paint that I used for my macaroons and I'm going to be using them to paint the sprinkles I made. I sieved the frosting from my cake and I'm using the rest of it to spread on my sugar cookies. I also made a pink and a blue set of frosting that I used for the other 2 cookies as well. The leftover pink frosting from the sugar cookie I used to spread around the edges of the glass I found at Dollar Tree that I thought would make a cute little conversation heart milkshake. I dummied up the bottom of my glass with little logs so that the frosting I add on top will not collapse and I won't have to use as much. After I added the whipped cream on top of the glass, I picked up some of the sprinkles that I made earlier and evenly placed them around the whipped cream. Did the same thing on top of my conversation heart cake. We purchased this red tub of spackling at Home Depot for $20. We got this big one because we were going to make a huge mass of ice cream and separated it amongst the 3 containers and saved a little bit later for icing. Making the icing in each container, we added the color that we wanted and some of the spackling, and we made sure we added a nice healthy chunk of 2 cups of flour to make it look like ice cream consistency, and we purchased a new ice cream scoop with the handle. It took a lot of mixing to combine the spackling and the flour together, especially the white one, because I couldn't tell which one was spackling and which one was flour. When we made our scoops, we made sure the scoop was full, and we made sure we left rugged edges along the scoop for that when you scoop it into the bowl, it will look more realistic. When we made the frosting inside the Home Depot spackling, it was already like a frosting-like consistency, so all we had to do was add some white paint. Time to add the toppings. That is all the sweets for this video, and if you like them, make sure to subscribe and turn those post notifications on. Happy Valentine's Day from the Curly Crafter. Bye everyone!